That evening, sitting in the little hotel room by yourself with Ethan, I realized life shocks. You were unpredictable already. I was anxious, asked me husband. Nathan had been abroad for several months in another city. I missed Dean, certainly, but it wasn't just Abuthus not being around, it was his negligence, his lack of interest that was true problem, though lonely evenings were eating away at my soul. How could I have realized that asking my stepson Ethan to bring me to your dad would result in a coup? In a small hotel room with one bed, what was going to happen eluded me. Allow me to cover every mini detail from the very beginning, I promise you. The conclusion of this narrative will be far more fascinating than you could ever imagine. I glanced quickly in the mirror that morning as I was leaving the house. I was tense, certainly, but I still looked fantastic. Even with Nathan leaving mess alone, I still felt attractive, still felt alive, but even those sensations weren't enough anymore. They didn't please me. Was finishing his breakfast in the kitchen when I yelled out from behind, I know you enter college at the end of this summer, but you still have it to improve your driving. Come on, take me too. Your dad looked up at me, the same Miss IOU's grin in his face. He always wore Ethan was an each kid with a quirky, hilarious idea. He could be such a little rascal at times. All fine, stepmom, he said, taunting, but on one condition. Tell dad Topper chase me a nicer her ale mobile 4th summer. We'll speak about it. I replied, forcefully ushering him inside, though. I was simply thinking, let's just get this journey over with, but I had no notion the voyage wouldn't go as planned it would. Been driving for nearly 2 hours. I was in the back seat fooling around on me phone, while Ethan sang along to some song on the radio, tossing out ridiculous quips. Every now and then that just made him chuckle. Then all of a sudden the automobile produced this dreadful sound of hiss, and then Dada Gaga. What's happening? I asked, trying not to seem too spooked out. I guess Thacker broke down, Ethan murmured, pulling over to the side of the road, evidently angry. So there we were, trapped in the middle of nowhere. The signal on my phone was hardly there, and there wasn't anyone nearby to help. We spent 2 hours fighting phoning every technician we could locate, attempting to fix the blasted thing. Finally, we had to accept the obvious family choice was to spend the night at closest hotel at the motel reception. As Ethan chatted with the person at that desk, I stood behind him, annoyed as hell. If Nathan learns about this, he's going to lose it, I thought, but curiously in that moment I didn't feel like it mattered all that much deep down. I simply knew tonight was going to alter things. Before this tale gets weird, make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on those alerts. Trust me, you don't want to miss the end of this by the end of it. I'd want to see your support in the comments, and with those likes, and we went to the room and opened the door. My expectations crashed, and brunette, the area was small, hardly big enough to spin around, with one bed, one nightstand, and a weak flickering overhead light hat made everything appear dismal. The ceiling seemed low, the awkwardly functioned, and the one little window nearly faced the parking lot. This is it, I mumbled, dissatisfied. Ethan stepped in behind me, chuckling. What we were expecting, a 5-star hotel, wasn't here for one night. Relaxed, stepmom, his mocking tone and his speech along with his cheeky grin just made my aggravation greater, but at the same time I couldn't say I fully loathed Ethan's carefree, laid-back attitude. Being around him, even though I never acknowledged it, aroused something inside me, a kind of acceleration. I didn't really understand this. He is killing me, I murmured, stroking the back of my neck. I believe I need a shower, or I'm truly going to pass out. Certainly. Ethan responded nonchalantly, flinging himself onto the bed and resting flat on his back. This is your domain, Sophia. Do everything you need to feel at home. I gazed at him for a second. His thin yet toned form, along with the subtle boyishness of his features, gave him a weird kind of attractiveness, but I instantly attempted to throw the concept out of my brain. He was Nathan's kid, after all. Miss Stepson. I walked into the bathroom and slammed the door behind me. For a time I just gazed at my reflection in the mirror. My hair was plastered to me skin from the heat, yet I still looked nice. I still had that spark. Turning the shower on, I let the water run and walked under, thinking it would wash away the tangle of emotions rising up inside me. I'm 47 years old, I thought, and Ethan's not a kid anymore. He's too preparing to start college, and here we are imprisoned at in this little motel room for a few days. The concept both troubled and aroused me in a manner I couldn't quite define. Nathan popped into my head. Nathan, I wanted to surprise you. I wanted to come visit you, to be with ya, but now I'm here in prison in this little room with your son, and I don't know how to feel about it. The steam from shower filled the small bathroom. The heat calming my body, even as my mistress Ethan's grin, his easygoing personality, was kindling some thinking. Next spin inside me, standing under the stream of water. I couldn't tell what the spark may turn into, but I felt something wash happening later. I decided to walk downstairs for support and clear my thoughts a bit. It threw on a simple Flowing outfit, it was a deal for the heat, but it also made him feel a bit more at ease, like I was string to shake off this odd tightness. Hotel restaurant was modest, but me suited for a setting this tiny. I ordered a light lunch and a glass of wine, believing it would help me relax. The sun had fallen and the streetlights outside the motel were twinkling softly. Sitting there, I couldn't stop my thoughts from going back to the room upstairs. I wondered what Ethan's up to right now, someone as restless and full of energy as him surely wasn't having much fun being imprisoned up in a tight room, but nevertheless that casual attitude of his so effortless, so carefree, was driving me mad in a manner he couldn't quite describe. When my wine was gone, I gave my dish a final glance, scene, made my way upstairs, taking deliberate steps. When I approached their room, everything was extremely calm. I opened the door, and the image that confronted me left me briefly breathless. Ethan had taken a shower and was resting in the bed in just a robe, utterly knocked out. His half-open and robe displayed most of his slender athletic figure. His moist hair fell over his forehead, and there was a small grin on his lips like he was dreaming. My heart started thumping. It was the last thing I anticipated to walk into. For a second, I hesitated beside the entrance, unsure of what to do. Inside me, there was this odd combination of feelings. I felt uncomfortable, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. **Sapphire****. What the heck are you doing? That's Nathan's son, I reprimanded us mentally, but my eyes betrayed measure into the section of his robe that had slid more apart. What I saw roused something warm inside me. The limited size of the room only made matters worse. There wasn't another bed. It was either sleep close to him or spend there the night in a chair, and in this heath concept of a chair seemed inconceivable. I moved inside the room carefully, Ethan's steady, regular breathing filling the area. I took a long breath, attempting to focus, but the pandemonium inside me made it difficult to think clearly. I had to get myself together. Okay, Sophia, and mumbled to myself, it's only one night, nothing more. This doesn't imply anything. She intended to surprise Nathan, and now I'm stuck here. But sensible, keep it together. I took a few steps nearer the bed and stared at Tethany. Innocent smile on his face just made me already convoluted thoughts even more difficult. I sat down on the side of the bed, wondering how I was going to make it through the night. In the middle of the night, a faint sound woke me up. I barely opened my eyes, just enough to set room. I observed Ethan shifting on feet. He appeared half sleepy, running his hands through his hair and scratching his head softly. I found myself watching him, but I kept my eyes just slightly open, pretending to still tired inside though. I felt everything from tranquilo anxious, then I felt that his eyes were on me. My heart started racing. He was observing me. I had tempted to keep up the act, maintaining the drowsy expression on my face and staying still, but inside I watched him with activity. Slowly I proceeded to unhook the belt of his robe. As it loosened, the robe dropped off his holder, showing more of his toned, youthful physique. The way his muscles switched slightly with his moves brought up a color feeling through me. I couldn't stop myself in that instant. I recognized what things I had no control over what was occurring, and part of me didn't even want to stop it. Ethan picked out a pair of shorts from the wardrobe. While doing so, he kept peering back at me as if trying to figure out whether I was awake. His glances got me even more eager. I was trying hard not to give anything away, but at the same time, I allowed the moment to entirely take over me. After putting on his shorts, he didn't come back to bed. Instead, he sat on the chair in the corner of the room and just started observing me. Being observed so carefully was both unnerving and sparked something unexplainable deep inside me. I kept my eyes shut, pretending to sleep, but how long could I truly keep up this act? Finally, I couldn't take it anymore and sat up. When my eyes met Ethan's, I made sure my voice wavered as I said, "You're making me so thrilled, Ethan." I could feel the words hang in the air. At that moment, I realized nothing would ever be the same again. Ethan's eyes fluttered for a second, then he took a big breath and proceeded to talk. "I didn't know, Sophia," he answered, his voice low but steady. "We've been residing under the same roof for a time now, ever since my dad's been away, and the more time we spend together, the more I feel for you. You might not know it, but sometimes I can't conceal the adoration I have for you right now. This feels like some kind of dream. His remarks got me off guard, but they also sparked something inside me. Ethan wasn't looking away. His eyes held mine with a type of honesty and intensity that had me absolutely enthralled. "I need to get up early to get the vehicle fixed," he went on, though his voice sounded like he was trying to convince himself, but his eyes didn't waver, not even a little. "But right now, just can't take my eyes off you, Sophia." I've never felt this way before. My heart was racing at that minute. I stepped to the edge of the bed and sat down on the chair square in front of him, my eyes fixed onto his. The energy between us was so tremendous, it didn't need words. We sat there in silence for a bit before I pucker my lips slightly and set my ease on high asterisk. Ethan asterisk, I answered softly, my voice holding both curiosity and Ascend. Are we talking about Stepson thing? Ethan's stare intensified, like wanted to live this moment through feelings. Rather than words, he didn't triply, but the expression in his eyes told it all, and that's when I understood there was no turning back for us. As I peered into his eyes, a beer of boldness and overpowering me welled up inside. Mix of doubt and excitement and high sighs just pushed me farther. Taking a big breath, I proceeded to speak again, my voice calm but forceful. Asterisk. Ethan a mirror grabbing his complete attention. When I came into the room, you were asleep. Your robe was a bit open and I couldn't take me eyes off you. It got to more than a thought. We can't run from these sentiments. We both know that. As my mark shung in the air, I took a step forward and slowly stood up. His gaze followed my every move, his respiration increasing. I couldn't hold back the exhilaration rushing through. My fingers moved for the ribbon on mid-dress, and as I carefully undid it, I could hear the shift in his respiration. With every motion I made, he guessed. I murmured, my voice lowering to a whisper, we need to level things out. Ethan asterisk. I carefully unzipped the back off my dress. The cloth fell off Miss Holder's and went down to the floor, the cool air brushing over my skin. Just midday burning inside me flare more. The expression in his eyes told it all. Surprise, adoration, and a draw. Heckle didn't resist. The stillness between you seemed like a link. Now our breaths mingling into one another without breaking eye contact. I took another step toward him. Now I continue in a quiet voice, we'll see whether we're actually talking about the same thing. Ethan's eyes kept fixed on me, his emotions solid and full off. Very suddenly, he rose up, never talking his focus off me, and turned on the room light. The warm illumination filled their room as he stepped over and shut the door. My heart started beating. That minute, it felt like the whole world had slowed down, leaving just the two of us. When he took a red toward me, my breathing exhaled. He looked to be attempting to read my gaze, but at the same time, he was well aware of the wordless pull between us. As he moved closer, his hands grabbed my waist, and the warmth of his touch seemed like an electric current rushing through me. Without uttering a word, he leaned forward, his gaze descending to my lips. I didn't object. I couldn't. Everything about this seemed natural, like it was supposed to happen. When his lips found Riya Shedman, all the tension inside me melted away. His kiss was gentle and exploratory. It conveyed an evident intensity. My hands involuntarily sought his shoulders, feeling their strength and warmth encircle me. The distance between us entirely dissolved when our breaths combined. That moment seemed like an eruption of all the unspoken feelings between us. Ethan's freshness and vigor met with depth of a passion I had held over the years. It was the start of something, a beginning both terrible and exciting. That night there was no disguising what we felt for one another anymore. I let myself fall back into bed, my body weary but my thoughts racing. My breathing was still unsteady. I foot brushed across the fabric of my garment lying on the floor. I felt Ethan's eyes on me, a strong and calm intensity flowing from his stare. A minute later, he stopped down and scooped up the garment, his fingertips delicately brushing over where my foot had been. Even that simple deed shot flames through me. As he held the garment for a second, I could see a flash of hesitation his face, but it was swiftly replaced by resolve. He tossed the clothing as it ended. His hands slid to the edge of the bed. Slowly he crawled onto the mattress, his motions meticulous, deliberate. As he moved closer to me, the expression on his face reflected his sentiments, equal parts eager and magnetic desire. As I lay in the opposite side of the bed, I sensed Ethan's proximity. My heart continued to race, my breath again inside. When I watched him bending towards me, I knew that the space between us had nearly totally evaporated. It felt as if everything had reached a breaking point. There was no turning back, and Waith felt inside me at that moment was tremendous. It hurt, yet it delighted me. Same time I looked up at the ceiling and I could see Ethan's face. I was attracted by the way he wiped back his forehead with his hand. I could see in his eyes what Ethan was experiencing. He was crimson, he was thrilled, and he was so joyful. I could see that he was doing everything with such enthusiasm, and I was struck by the way he was out of breath. Ethan had rushed me and my emotions to the point where I was delighted the automobile had broken down. I'll never forget this, hotel, Ethan muttered in his shaky voice, his words pushed out, each one as heavy as a gulp off breath. His eyes were riveted on yet his hands were trembling slightly. His body was rigid as muscles, constricting each action a bit more meticulous and precise, as if he wished to keep Amory. I absolutely don't want my father to sell the automobile anymore, he added, and after these statements, Halath himself fall next to me, closed his eyes without uttering a word, and waited for his breathing to recover. I was fatigued and I didn't even have the strength to voice a word. My legs wouldn't stop convulsing, and I didn't even understand how I had fallen asleep the next morning. Finn came with a carrot and informed me you needed to pick up Nathan and travel to the city where he was on the trip. I was overwhelmed with sadness and confused feelings, but at the same time there was excitement inside me as it glanced at Ethan, his gaze, his movements of everything about him was influencing me. Everything was so intricate, yet I still didn't know what would happen. I couldn't distinguish between the questions in my head and the exhilaration. There was just one thing I knew for sure: this travel would be the moment everything changed. If you've made it this far, I know my tale has excited you. Don't miss out on more. Hit follow button, switch on alerts, and join us by leaving comment on the story. Can't wait to hear your views.